Hi guys, this is David Negrin, host of the Script Podcast and executive director of the NYC Screenwriters Collective. I'm excited to announce that we've created a Patreon campaign for the Script. Patreon is like a Kickstarter, but it allows you to give ongoing pledges every month and receive ongoing rewards. Of course, the Script Podcast will continue to be free, but we're just asking for a little help. We release 4 or 5 podcasts a month, but we'd like to do more. We'd also like to improve our audio quality and release video podcasts with rich content. So here's how you can help. Become a patron of the Script Podcast and gain access to our VIP activity feed with premium content. There, you'll be able to communicate privately with myself and my co-hosts after every podcast. You can get a packet of original screenwriting guides written exclusively for members of the NYC Screenwriters Collective. You can receive our monthly tracking board preview podcast for Hollywood insider updates on big script sales and the hottest spec screenplays to hit the market. You can get access to full on-demand video of NYC Screenwriters Collective events, lectures, and panel discussions. At the highest patron levels, you can even request the film or TV series we analyze and come on the script yourself to analyze it. So please, check out all our rewards, join our inner circle. Become a patron of the Script Podcast at patreon.com/thescript.
What I'm about to tell you is top secret. There's a powerful group of people out there that are secretly running the world. I'm talking about the guys no one knows about, the guys that are invisible. The top 1% of the top 1%, the guys that play God without permission. And now I think they're following me.
This is The Script, the official podcast of the NYC Screenwriters Collective. I'm David Negrin, and with me tonight to analyze the new Cyberpunk USA series, Mr. Robot, Jordan Rosengarten and Christopher Theokis. Welcome, guys.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
I'm so glad to have both of you guys on. You're both nerds from different disciplines, as am I. And Mr. Robot is getting a lot of talk on the internet. It's getting a lot of acclaim. I want to talk about, from a screenwriter's perspective, what works and what doesn't work. But I'm excited about this show. Creator's name is Sam Esmail. He's like a newcomer. This guy sold his show, sold his pilot, said, I want to be a creator on it, forced their hand. After the pilot gets a bunch of views online and the second episode aired, what was it, last night, guys? Or
I think it was last night.
Yeah, he got an automatic second season deal over at USA. He's an overnight success. He has like no background in Hollywood before this.
Now, David, for people who don't know, like, how common is that?
The last guy who I was this jealous of was the gentleman who did the OC. What's his name?
He's not completely off the map. He did, according to the Internet Movie Database, which I know I live by, he did a movie called Comet. He wrote a movie called Comet with Emmy Rossum and Justin Long. Mm-hmm. He was a producer on, well, never mind, that was a short. But he was also, he worked for HBO, and he's done a couple of things, and it sounds like this is probably an IMDb page that's missing a lot of stuff.
Okay, you think he had some stuff. I haven't read, there was a couple of articles about him yet, but I haven't been this jealous about from a guy since Josh Schwartz of the OC and the Gossip Girl fame. Like, this guy has the job I want, because I love Cyberpunk. I'm a Cyberpunk geek. I know you are too, Chris, right?
I do enjoy the genre.
And Jordan, how do you feel about it?
Well, I'm a little no. I'm not a fan.
You do not subscribe to the Cyberpunk suppository?
Exactly. But for the folks who are listening who don't know, like, what's Cyberpunk as a genre, like, what is that?
Okay, I knew you were going to ask me that, so I put together a little short essay on the definition of Cyberpunk.
You did homework, David?
I did.
Oh,
I
nice.
watched it.
I'm the host. He's like, I watched the show. I usually podcast without even watching it, so he wants a plus.
A cookie.
So cyberpunk is a genre of science fiction, a subgenre, usually set in a lawless subculture of an oppressive society dominated by computer technology. Okay, cyberpunk plots often center on a conflict among artificial intelligences and megacorporations, and tend to be set in a future Earth rather than far future settings like intergalactic stuff like Asimov's Foundation or Frank Herbert's Dune. Some of the well-known cyberpunk authors are William Gibson and Neil Stephenson. Some of the well-known cyberpunk movies are Blade Runner and The Matrix. Classic cyberpunk characters are marginalized, alienated loners who lived on the edge of society in generally dystopic futures where daily life is impacted by rapid technological change and a ubiquitous data sphere of computerized information and invasive modification of the human body. That's Lawrence Person. He's a cyberpunk writer. So basically, it's like a marginalized group of rebels against an oppressive force using tech to even the playing field.
Got it. Okay, so, well, that makes a lot more sense. Yeah, I guess that explains a lot of the problems that I had with this, and that...
that there is convention and literary tradition that you were ignorant of.
Yeah, man.
So thus you didn't get it.
Literary convention, yeah, whatever. I would say that, you know, whatever. There were too many things in here where I just rolled my eyes and all right, I'll get into it after.
No, I'm glad you're here, Jordan, because we need someone to represent the general audience. This is on USA. This is meant for wide distribution. Yeah. It's not just for cyberpunk geeks.
And I'll be fair, I'm not here to shit on it, really. Because when I finished the pilot, I felt one way, which was very negatively, and I was very angry. And then when I finished the second episode, it started to turn me a little bit, and I felt a little differently. I started to like it a little bit more, and I started to get into it. So we can talk about that as well. But yeah, we'll get there.
Well, I watched it on the USA browser on Apple TV, so I'm clearly in a cyberpunk world already. I'm actually predisposed to something like this. I came through the first episode kind of liking it. Actually, the second episode wasn't as strong for me. But I felt like actually watching the first episode that maybe another, 60 minutes, they could have finished the story. But that's something, again, we can talk about when we get into it.
Like it could have been a feature film?
Yeah, it struck me as... a couple of years ago, there was the show The River, I think it was called, and the guy that did Paranormal Activity, it was his show. And that I watched an episode or two of that, and it struck me as this thing was supposed to be a movie, and somebody said, well, what do you have? We have a TV show. We want you to do a TV show, and he repurposed it. And that's kind of the feeling I got from the first episode of Mr. Robot.
I actually did do more homework, and you're actually on the nose. Sam Esmail wrote this as a feature.
Okay.
And when he was shopping it around, USA said, can you make it into a series? What tipped you off to that in the script, in the writing? What tipped you off to that?
I guess the first meeting with Christian Bale felt kind of like, which happens about halfway through the episode, if I'm not mistaken.
Is that a Christian Slater?
The pilot. Yeah,
Christian Slater.
Yeah. Christian Bale would be an amazing catch for this show.
I said, was I sleeping during that part? I was confused.
Not that Christian Slater's bad, but no, it
Christian
felt like
Slater plays Mr. Robot,
right?
The mentor.
And when Elliot meets him, it felt kind of like an inciting incident. And when I say when he meets him, when he first sees him on the train, thinking he's hallucinating about the Men in Black, but then when he finally does talk to him, it felt like a call to action that I'd see in a feature.
It felt like it was following a feature length, and essentially and we'll get to this. I don't want to jump ahead, but the act out for the pilot is a great midpoint.
Yeah,
and we pick up in episode 2 right where we left off. So it's almost as if episode 1 and episode 2 were his feature, and we'll have to see where he goes down the line.
Right. Well, even like the beginning of episode 1, the first half, a fair amount of that felt like, not unnecessary, but padding. If you're going to be a TV show, if you're going to have more than 120 minutes to tell your story, you probably need a lot of that information. And now that you got me thinking about it,
this series has a very small core cast, a
Yeah.
lot more like a feature film,
Right.
right? We're with the protagonist most of the time.
Yeah. He's got the love interest.
He's got a love interest, but he's going through sort of chapters, escalating sequences.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, usually I'll go to you guys for general thoughts first, but one of the things that my biggest takeaway from this pilot was there's so much good screenwriting here. The scenes end different from the way you expect. There's a lot of subtle setups with great payoffs, right? You know, the internal monologue is great. He's able to show social anxiety cinematically through the writer's choices, also through the performance, because this actor's fantastic.
Yeah.
The guy who plays Elliot.
Yeah, it's Rami Malek.
He's killing it.
Yeah.
He's a new star. He's
amazing.
A great actor. And then we see that the choices only we see, right? We see that he's a crusader, that he turned in a child pornographer because it was the right thing to do. But then he empathized with him, being different. He's like, I understand what it's like to be different. And then he tries to help his therapist by hacking the guy she dates. And we see him try to go to the party, but then his social anxiety prevents him. This is great screenwriting. Writing internal conflict is very hard to do, and it's stuff that you would see in a feature, and that they don't usually take the time to dote on this character stuff in a TV series. And I think that's why it's so darn successful.
Yeah, it also makes me wonder where they go from here, because like Chris was saying, it feels like you could have just rewritten those two first episodes and made them into a movie. So it's
in the first episode or the second episode, I'm sorry, the drug supplier felt like it was tacked on. That guy, I forget the character's name, and that felt like
widening the universe,
right? And it felt like an obligatory. We have to make this bigger since I have 10 or I think it's 10 episodes to fill, or 13 episodes to fill, or whatever it is.
Yeah,
and initially I read today, bearing in mind I just read the headline, that apparently they already have a second season, and it was supposed to be a mini-series.
So this was supposed to be a limited series?
Right, and it's because once the F Society takes down Evil Corp, what's left? And I think he even addresses that to a certain degree in one of the episodes where it's like,
you just kicked off. I mean, later on. I want to talk about our original pilot checklist, but we're nailing this episode. This pilot nails so many things. Like, it sets up a season objective. We know exactly what the season objective is. It opens with that great scene where he outs the child pornographer, which is a strong thematic opening. That's on the original pilot checklist. So this thing is killing it from a screenwriting perspective so far. Jordan,
yes.
General thoughts on the pilot?
I was definitely interested. That first scene where he's sitting with the child pornographer, and we were learning about him as a character through his inner monologue and how he's speaking. That to me was fine, and it was interesting, and I got sucked in a little bit. And then it got really annoying and predictable. And I think it is partially due to the fact that it is in a genre where this is like just going through the motions. Like, you need to have that evil corporation, and it's so evil. And
that bothered you that it was an evil corporation? It was called evil corporation. It was so on the nose.
That bothered me to no end. And it also bothered me that it was like white old men that were these bad guys in the corporation. The typical like no,
So Chris, Jordan's making a really good point that someone who doesn't know the genre is going to say this is so on the nose. Right. Where does, Chris, in your opinion, where does lazy meet stylized? Is this stylized genre convention stuff, or is this just lazy?
Right away, well, my first thought would be lazy, but we talked about like the way he puts a twist on certain things. So like his voiceover when he's talking to us, he's literally talking to somebody that he says he's made up in his mind, that we aren't even a real audience.
I like that.
And so when it says, maybe I blinked and missed it or whatever my ears did, Evil Corp is like very on the nose, right? It's like first off, it's the Enron E because it's the
Is
old
it?
it's the old Enron.
Yeah, it is.
It's on the side, right?
And so then,
sure.
of course, every time you see it in the news, it's Evil Corporation or whatever. And I'm wondering if he's not sure, if he's talking to not real people, is he schizophrenic? And how much can we trust that E actually means evil?
Is he an unreliable narrator?
And how unreliable?
He said it to us. Are these delusions? Are they real or are they not?
And then, of course, the pilot episodes ends with him basically hoping that we see what he's seeing.
That's right. The pilot episode, the act out where he ends up in the conference room
with
there's a shot of the people in the conference room, and then there's a shot of him. It seems like he might be alone.
Right. And so he's like, I hope you're seeing what I'm seeing. So the question is, I think if you take the headline that it's going to get a second season, that, okay, this is really happening, that would be because how long can you spin out somebody's mental illness? I guess maybe a long time. But
Lost did it for 7 seasons, basically.
But yeah, so that makes me wonder, like, if things right now that seem kind of conventional or cliche or whatever are going to get twisted in the end because of his perception of the world around him. Is Evil Corp going to turn out to be like, I don't know, Energy Corp or something else that's not evil?
Yeah,
why are they evil,
everyone's calling them evil Corp.
Yeah, it's not just him.
They're using it, but so is that his perception?
Okay, so you also said that he's in, and this is true, he's in pretty much every scene, which means if everybody's calling it Evil Corp and he's in the scene, it's probably from his perspective. And so it's like when he sees it up on the billboard or up on the TV screen in Times Square, he hears his love interest or the girl he loves say it or whatever.
Right. How much of this is actually real? And this is where we need to get into another genre convention of cyberpunk that doesn't appear to be showing itself, which is the meshing of man and machine. And this is where I need to go into my spiel about the Matrix parallels for Mr. Robot.
Yeah, because those were
there's several parallels directly to the Matrix in this, and the meshing of man and machine and the perception of reality are a theme of cyberpunk. And Elliot is taking drugs regularly. He's seeing a shrink. He may be having delusions. His shrink gave him medication for his delusions. The Matrix is all about the world being one big delusion, right? So maybe this is happening slowly, and it's going to be a season reveal that it's all in his head, or part of it's in his head, or who knows?
I hope not. But I guess that would go along with this genre that I don't like. I will say that there was that scene that...
You're being such a spoiled.
I know I am, but...
You did not like The Matrix.
I liked The Matrix because... it was different. It was cyberpunk. It might have been classified as cyberpunk, but it's a freaking action movie. It has a villain.
Yes.
It has
right, you're right. We're not getting any kung fu in Mr. Robot.
Well, no, but
I doubt it.
There's a clear villain in the Matrix. There's a clear objective, and it's not about the hacking in and all that stuff. That's just a vehicle to get us to the point, to the plot. And here it's like, all right, why is Evil Corp evil? Why exactly does he want to, we're slowly figuring that out. Why does Christian Slater want to do all these things?
So in a piece of dialogue that was almost completely lifted directly from The Matrix, Mr. Robot tells Elliot, you're here because you sense something wrong with the world.
Yeah, I was going to say that. That's like...
You can't explain, but you know it controls you and everyone you care about. What? And I'm like, it's The Matrix.
That got me...
And he goes, money. And the stakes have lowered. It's no longer the end of the world. It's just the corporations and money. And then he
I think that's a little I think, like, if you end the world, you don't have to worry about it anymore. And what they're talking about doing is it's a company that controls something like 70% of the credit market.
Yes.
And if you take that out, if you just completely erase it, Mr. Robot's like, hey, no big deal. Everybody's mortgage will be erased. No more student loans. No more credit card debt, etc.
The biggest wealth redistribution in history.
It'll be a redistribution of wealth. And I'm thinking to myself, that would collapse the planet. It would. Right. This is like the prequel to Mad Max. Is what's happening.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. I wrote down anarchy next to it. Like, you can't just erase the debt and all of a sudden the working class and the middle class have
saved.
new money because the global financial system would shut down.
Yeah,
but that's fine because maybe Elliot's too naive to know that that's what Mr. Robot wants, is that he wants to turn the world into Mad Max.
Well, I mean, if you could say, based on especially the second episode, that there are already going to be conflicts between Elliot and Mr. Robot.
Yeah,
and this could be one of those things where, this season they join together and fight Evil Corp, and Elliot starts taking his medication and finds out that it's really something else Corp. And then the next season he fights Mr. Robot, or a couple seasons from now.
Sure. Before we get past the Matrix comparisons, I just wanted to jot down a couple of things that I saw. Mr. Robot, one of the first things he says to him is, "You're in a prison. I'm going to break you out."
Right.
And then eventually he takes him to sort of that hacker paradise in Coney Island, the same way Morpheus took
Neo,
Mr.
Anderson,
Nebuchadnezzar, right?
Yeah. And then to Zion, but.
And then design. Well, no,
talking
about the first movie.
The first movie.
Talking about the one good one.
I mean, look, in Mr. Robot, there's a group of guys running the world, and they're after him. They're following him. He's got this sense of misanthropy. He's a misanthrope. He's like, his father died of leukemia. He thinks he got it at the place he worked.
Right.
And he's like, but don't worry, the company's fine. Right?
Yeah.
You get that sense, right? That he wants some payback. And then, he has a little monologue where he's like, I understand people. I read people really well. You know how? I look for the worst in them because we want to be sedated. It's too painful to acknowledge the world around us. So this guy's just really misanthropic. He wants to change the world. He doesn't want to change the world. He wants revenge on the world. And this is the kind of characteristic. I'm sorry if I get too intellectual here, Jordan, but this is the kind of characteristic that they find in modern day whistleblowers like Edward Snowden and Julian Assange. No one would throw their life into a spin without a huge chip on their shoulder the way those two guys have done. And that's what I love about this show. It is based really present in our real world where there are guys who have done that.
I would agree with you, but I would say that if the writers had any balls, or the writer or the creator, why not make, if you want to be really relevant, why not make the corporation a media company like Sony or something? And he's hacking in, and what I'm saying? Like, I just felt like it was.
What's wrong with the company they have? They're just a bank.
Exactly.
Well, they're more than just a bank because they're in.
I know.
I
get that I get that banks have been doing really shitty things lately. So you want to put that, but I've seen that in movies. That's an easy target, and I'm like, if you want to put a new spin on an old idea, you do something that's very current. Something like why not do a media company like not Sony, but something close to that? Isn't there a lot more opportunity? Doesn't media have a lot more influence than banks, or just as much influence?
I like where you're going with this,
Yeah.
okay? I think that's a great idea. It would be interesting if the Cyberpunk, instead of taking down the traditional bank or corporation, was taking on an entertainment company that got too big.
Right.
Well, again, like I was saying a second ago, the idea behind E-Corp, I think it's not just that it's a bank, because at the beginning of the pilot, or relatively towards the beginning, they're showing that they're involved in agriculture, that they're involved in healthcare. There are real estate signs all over the city. The building next to Elliot's is being rented out by Evil Corp.
Right. They're basically Dr. Evil's company.
Dr. Evil Corp.
And obviously all the computers are Evil Corp computers.
Right.
And they just blew it up to encompass every part of your life.
Right.
But I wouldn't be surprised if a little bit down the line from, maybe 2 or 3 more episodes, we get the Evil Corp owns CNN kind of episode.
Right.
That's fine. Yeah, that would be great. Yeah. That would be great.
I love that.
And they start manufacturing.
I don't get the impression that they would focus on that.
But this pilot is really set in the modern world. They talk about Facebook. They talk about Instagram.
Right.
They mention they name check a lot of stuff that we deal with on a regular basis. It's trying to be current and conspiracy theory at the same time. And I think it's doing a great job of that. The stakes are not as big as the Matrix. It's not the robots are out to get us and destroy human civilization. It's set in the real world where a student debt crisis or mortgage debt crisis is the evil in the world. And that's activist in modern day activism on a show on USA Network.
You could arguably say that this may. I mean, I think Cyberpunk is partly in this genre, but it's like the day before the end of the world. I mentioned Mad Max earlier. If you look at the Mad Max films, the first Mad Max movie is the day before the end of the world. It's the dystopic future, and then Road Warrior is the day after.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like this isn't 20 minutes in the future like Max Headroom, a big cyberpunk show from the 80s. This is 2 minutes in the future, 3 minutes in the future. And because, like you said, they mention all the things like Facebook and Twitter.
I think you're right. I think it's 30 seconds in the future. It's present
and
plus.
So the idea is, my impression is, if Elliot fails, and not Mr. Robot, but if Elliot fails in playing everybody the way he needs to, and which is going to be tough for an antisocial guy, then we have the end of the world, whatever that may be. But he's like right on the cusp of it, and he's in a position to maybe see it as well. But that's an impression I'm getting. That's not. I don't think that's really stated in the episode or either episode.
Right.
Before we jump forward, I want to ask Jordan.
Yep.
Were you bored when they showed pictures of a guy typing on a keyboard hacking and on a screen?
I would say, well, here actually not so much because I didn't see a lot of it. I see more of it in similar. With similar genre, films and television shows, which annoys the hell out of me. And it's like,
yes, and which is why I bring it up, because this is one of those things in a genre that is obsessed with computing and hacking. There's always, you've got to handle the typing on a screen stuff,
right? And
sometimes it's terrible, and sometimes it's okay.
Well, we were talking when we did our Chappie podcast. If you remember. Dave, I think it's Patel or something, as an Indian actor who designs Chappie.
Dev Patel.
And there's this whole scene this dramatic scene where he's typing and he's doing these typing things, and you see the computer, and we don't have any idea what the hell he's doing. And this dramatic music's playing, and it's going on and on.
But we get it.
We don't. No. The point is that it kind of the excitement is not there because it's redundant. It's like, okay, you're typing on your computer and we don't know what you're typing. We don't know what it means. Here they handle it really well, where you don't. It's in perfect doses. To me, if there's a positive thing to say, that I think that was handled pretty well.
All right. Well,
that was the server farm scene. That was, I think, the middle of the episode of the pilot.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I agree. I haven't seen Chappie, but I think this one was served better because you had a visual idea with the schematics of the server farm, and it said
they gave you a little. They gave us a little. Actually, I'm going to steal Jordan. Before the podcast began, he said Star Trek: The Next Generation always did a good job of technobabble.
Yes.
Yeah.
And at the same time giving us a visual. Star Trek: The Next Generation always had like a really cool kind of like visual for us to look at while the technobabble was going, and they did that. That's what you're talking about, Chris. Right.
So they said, this is the infected server. We can't let it get to these others. What does this look like? And it's a blinking light and all that jazz. That was really good.
And we have a layman on the side saying, "How are we doing?
Yeah.
Are we there yet?" And then when Elliot beats them, he's like, "Are we good?" He's like, "Yeah, we're good."
Yeah.
And on Star Trek: The Next Generation, the captain's always there to ask Geordi or Data, "What's going on? Did we get it?" Blah, blah, blah.
Because also, on Star Trek: The Next Generation with those things, like they have to explain it to us because they're making it up. We have no idea what they're talking about. Here they might be adding some, technical terms, and they have to explain it. Believe it or not, in a former life, I was a computer systems administrator, and I was watching all of the screens on Mr. Robot, and everything they were doing was technically accurate, but it wasn't spectacular. The things they were doing were very basic system administration things, like checking a network, looking at files. When they do the DDoS attack, which is a distributed denial of service,
they're just doing sort of network pings, which are like the very most basic step you would do when a network is down. So they didn't show us anything incredibly cool on the hacker side, but that's not important. What's important is that Jordan not be bored when they're doing it, and that, as Chris said, we see the drama in the server room.
It's it's very bad when I'm bored. It's just a bad thing.
Yeah, well, we try to keep you entertained.
I know that. That's why our pants are off.
Hands up.
Hands up.
Okay. I want to talk original pilot checklist first, and then we'll talk second episode and where we want the show to go. How's that sound?
Sounds good to me.
Fair
Screenwriters Collective original pilot checklist. We got 8 steps. The first step is, in the pilot, strong thematic opening that introduces our lead character. How did they do on that one?
I mean, that's something we could definitely check off there, because our first scene shows our main character, introduces him. We know, we learn what his skill is. We learn why he's there, what he's doing to this gentleman, and how that's going to play throughout the season potentially.
The guy he's killing, the guy's a throwaway.
No, he's a throwaway, but we're learning. But that he's a throwaway for a reason. He's there to show us what Elliot can do, and and show us what Elliot's values are, and what things like that.
Right. So you said,
like, the shorthand would be, we find out that he's a white hat hacker. He has social anxiety problems, and he's really good at his job. And he doesn't stand for this kind of bullshit.
And what's amazing is that if you told somebody to write that into a script, I've seen 100 scripts try to do that. I saw Michael Mann try to do it on Black Hat. Did you see Black Hat?
No.
No.
Nobody else did. It was it had suffered from all these problems we're talking about in a hacker movie. Not in the least that Thor is a shut-in hacker type.
I always thought he was. He looks the type.
But the scene is so well written, where he comes up to the guy. We don't know their relationship. We don't know who this character is. We don't know what his skills are. We don't know what his values are. And he slowly says, I like this cafe. You guys have, really good internet connection. Actually, it's so good that it scratched that part of my mind, that part that doesn't allow good to exist without condition. That's a theme stated, Blake Snyder. That is a theme stated right there, okay? And so then, yes, this is a strong thematic opening. And then he tells the guy that he doesn't do well around people. So we find out his flaw, we find out his gift, we find out the theme of the movie, and then the guy says, yeah, you're doing this for money. He walks out the door and he's like, no, that's the one thing you were wrong about. And the cops storm in. This is the TV hacker show version of a James Bond prologue.
Yeah.
First mission before the rest of the movie. Yep. James Bond, finishes a mission, and then we go on to the next mission. So I thought on number 1, they killed it.
It's funny you bring up James Bond. I was going to make a reference, and that's how I felt like, Evil Corp, remind me of like a James Bond, like evil corporation, like something
like Spectre.
Like Spectre, exactly.
Yep.
Like Spectre or Quantum or whatever it may be.
So how can you not know you're the bad guy when your name is Spectre?
Right.
Right. Like, our logo is a skull. What? There's something wrong.
Right.
I also, one thing also, when Ron walks out to the cops, it's clear that this is set up prior. I was thinking of Ozymandias from Watchmen, when he gives his big speech at the end about what he's going to do, and he says, no, I've already done it. And so he sets things in motion, Elliot sets things in motion so that he can have his confrontation, it seems.
That is a great screenwriter trick, by the way, to show competence or something good at his job, is that you have him explain what he's going to do, and then you cut to show, oh, actually he's already done it.
Right.
And it's a screenwriter shortcut to, this guy is 2 steps ahead, two chess moves ahead, which everyone would love to be. That's the same kind of wish fulfillment we have when we watch House of Cards and Kevin Spacey is 2 steps ahead of everybody, right? Like, we love that. We instantly like a person like that. And I want to go to Jordan because he said he had problems liking Elliot.
Here's the thing. I know he's supposed to be socially awkward. I just thought that the things that he was doing, just him, the idea of him just being a hacker, and how he comes off as being very creepy and like an invader of privacy, like the very thing that I think that most Americans now are scared of, like, you know, like NSA, like going through our phones, and like we don't like the fact that we're watching a guy who can do that. As a regular person, as a layman, you're just like, what the fuck? Like, really, man? Like, you're just gonna go into people's private, like, Facebook accounts and see their dating life? Like, when he hacks into the girl he's into, her boyfriend's, you know, Facebook and all that. I mean, this is just a guy who's looking to freaking date his friend. Like, he's not a villain or anything.
No, he's cheating on her.
He is cheating on her.
Yeah, but he's not a super villain. He's just some dopey guy.
Jordan's like, I don't want anyone looking at my
Yeah,
Facebook.
I've done that before. I'm worse than him.
Don't go into my text messages.
Yes, seriously.
I don't want that either, man. But so, Chris, you understand the classic issue of doing an anti-hero, making the protagonist likable when he is creepy and does bad things.
I don't know. I was okay with him. Is he my favorite character ever? No. Am I comfortable with the fact that he could probably just ask me a couple of benign questions and break into all my stuff? That is terrifying.
But from a screenwriting perspective, what's the key to an anti-hero, making an anti-hero likable?
He's either got to be really good at his job, which he clearly is. It helps if it's an interesting job to watch. Mm-hmm. You could be wondering, like, even if he's creepy, what is he doing? Is he doing something good?
Right.
In this case, you know,
he has
it's like,
a code. He
has a code. It's like, I'm not going to hurt
people. He's white
people.
hat, right? So
right. He's a white hat hacker. Yeah. I mean, in his case, that's really what you need.
The other one is if an anti-hero is funny, they're easy to like. But this guy's not funny. He's not making jokes.
No, but I mean, I have to admit, the thing that hooked me was when he basically told me that I wasn't real when he was talking in the voiceover. So I was like, all right, this is going to be fun.
Right.
So
I made you up.
Yeah, it's like, I don't necessarily know that, you know, him being funny, and I mean this in a general sense of anti-heroes, but I don't necessarily think they have to be funny. I think they have to be interesting.
Yeah.
You know, there's probably a line you can't cross, and I haven't found it yet.
Yeah.
But
so step 2 on the checklist was introduce your core characters, your protagonist and your antagonist, their flaws and gifts. That got done in the intro scene.
Yep.
We met our main character. We knew his flaws and gifts right away. What about antagonists and other core cast? Who's the core cast of the show?
So, I might as well just go to the page.
No, just off the top of your head. If you don't remember it's
his friend from childhood. What's her face? Mr. Robot is going to be
Angela.
Forget her name, but yeah, it's the one who he
Peppy Blonde.
Yeah, Peppy Blonde.
Pepper Potts.
Mr. Robot.
Angela, Tyrell.
Christian gleaming the cubes later.
Probably.
And then
his therapist.
Yeah, she'll be recurring, but she's a C story at best. What about the antagonist? Do we have a clear antagonist?
I think the face of it is Tyrell.
Yes.
Which is a Blade Runner call-out.
Is it?
Yeah, Tyrell Corporation.
Oh, that's right.
Oh,
yeah.
Nailed it.
That's right.
Nailed it.
Even Elliot, his last name is Alderson, and it's like one letter away from Anderson. So the Matrix.
Damn it! I was about to grab that. Yes, Elliot Alderson is one step from the Matrix, Thomas Anderson, and one step away from John Anderton of Minority Report and Philip K. Dick. So we have the homages taken care of. Screenwriters Collective Original Pilot Checklist number 3, introduce the world, setting, era, rules of the universe. Did we get that in the pilot? Is it clear?
I thought so. I'm assuming, you know, New York, or, you know, major metropolitan areas, specifically New York City.
It's New York, baby. I think it's definitely New York City, and this thing is shot in New York. So
yeah, it is. But they go to Dulles, which is outside of D.C. Like, they're not going to necessarily stick to New York the whole time. Maybe they will, but and I'm assuming, like we were saying earlier, it's 30 seconds in the future, and it's in the world of computer, or, you know, cybersecurity, IT security, things like that. I thought all that was very clear without them having to state anything.
Yeah, I think it's modern era. We talked about it. If it's in the future, it's seconds in the future. But we also talked about the rules of the universe, that we may have an unreliable narrator here, and the guy's on drugs, and he may have delusions. Step number 4 in the original pilot checklist is the series engine. What's the series engine for the show? What's the concept that's going to generate episode after episode?
It's the character of Mr. Robot doing this anarchistic kind of
campaign.
Yeah. And we're not quite sure what his motives are. Mm-hmm. We don't exactly know. We think it's at first, we think it's something. He's coming off as this guy who has this moral ground that he stands on, where he's saying, "Oh, you know what? I'm doing it for this and this reason." But who knows? Maybe he's just a freaking asshole.
Yeah. So, but every episode, Elliot has to decide, is he going to be part of the revolution or not? And if he becomes part of the revolution, he's going to fight obstacles in the revolution, right? So there is a war being waged here between Mr. Robot and Evil Corporation. Chris, series engine?
I think for this season, anyway, it's going to be the F Society. I think he's eventually joining the F Society, and they're going to try to take down Evil Corporation. That's partly from the fact that this feels like it was originally a movie, and it was going to be. It's in a way you need a simpler through line for that for 120 pages.
Yeah. Step 5 on the checklist is introduce a season objective, right? Planting the seeds of the series finale, and that's done here too, right? What's the season objective for Elliot?
Figure out what the hell this hacking group is about. What exactly what they want, and whether he wants to join these outcasts and.
Yeah, no, that's the act out of the pilot. Yeah, so that's also the season objective is is he going to be a part of the bad guys? Is he going to be a part of the good guys? Is he going to be for himself?
Right. And also, who are the bad guys? Who are the good guys?
See, this is interesting, because you know what? That goes back to step 2, is introduce the antagonist. Jordan, you're having a hard time figuring out who the bad guys are, and I don't think you're entirely wrong.
Yeah, I am, and I don't think it's me just my interpretation of it. I think that it is a little ambiguous because, and there's a great opportunity to kind of flip it on its head. And I would be really happy if they did that, because then we'd be going against convention. But yeah, I don't know, because I don't entirely trust Christian Slater's Mr. Robot character, because why should I? He hasn't given me enough to trust him yet.
Yeah, no, he's definitely sketchy.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that last we're definitely talking spoilers because we're talking the 2 episodes. So the last shot of episode 2 where he just pushes him down, he pushes Elliot over that ledge. We're thinking, what the hell's up with this guy? He's a little bit. Untrustworthy so far.
Was that a little bit homage to the jump in the Matrix, Chris?
No, actually, what it struck me as is what he says was about the. This actually comes up a couple times in each of the episodes. They meet at Church Street. In one scene, when Elliot's walking away, you can see like a sign that says like "Jesus saves" or something like that. And then at the very last scene of episode 2, Mr. Robot talks about a sacred pact.
Yeah.
And so it's more and more he's striking me as a zealot. And so he's going to be useful to do this one objective, but once that objective is taken care of, then he just becomes a liability. So if Elliot wants to take down Evil Corp and he joins up with the F Society, the ideals that there might be a clash of ideals. Really, he struck me as like a zealot more than anything else. He's going to be a true believer through and through, and it's going to be a metaphorical religious experience for him.
We have a season objective. What about a complete episode objective? Just a major A plot for the first pilot. What would you say is the A plot that resolves in the pilot?
I was thinking just who does the DDoS attack.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Helping to deal with the Evil Corp as their client being attacked by what we find out is the Mr. Robot. Original pilot checklist number 7, introduce the series conventions. implant recurring details and story mechanisms of the series that will get used again and again. So what kind of series conventions do we have on this show?
Well, there's an internal monologue, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's something that's being used for creative purposes, but also giving us information that we wouldn't know otherwise about Elliot, about what he's thinking, how his mind works. So there's that.
A lot of technobabble.
Technobabble, yeah.
But that it'll be made
the
if they stick with this.
Yeah.
It'll be made simple. Quote hacking.
Evil corporations, all the
cyberpunk stuff, but also we get New York City's underground. We get this guy is his mid-20s in New York, the drug culture, sort of the party culture, his crush, his friend is like sort of the yuppie culture in New York. So there's a sense of the where the setting is, and that keeps coming back. Right. What about these, like, the way things are set up and paid off? There's a lot of, like, great little secrets that are planted and then paid off. Like, I really loved the scene where, in the pilot, where Elliot leaves to go save the world on a jet, and he returns, and his childhood friend, the blonde, is there to get high and watch Back to the Future 2 with him. And they go upstairs, and his skanky drug dealer is still naked in his bed. That was like a great setup and payoff. And I think it goes back to that opening scene too, where he'd already made the call to the police. And I think it's like a recurring, I don't know if it's a series convention, but it's just, surprising us with the audience being behind the writer's ball. And do we get, number 8, Screenwriters Collective Original Pilot Checklist, a cliffhanger closing that kicks off the series? Chris, did they reveal that there's much more drama to be explored at the end of the pilot?
I would say so, yes.
Yeah, definitely. It was, you could say that about the first 2 episodes, but going back to the pilot, yeah, absolutely. You are left there like holy shit, what... where, as if this could be the last, the end of this character's journey, like everything goes to hell, and then we pick up next week, where we find out that it's not what we thought it was. It's not like the FBI, which we were meant to think it is. So that definitely checks out.
So basically, all in all, this pilot checks out on our checklist. We had a little problem with identifying the antagonists and who they are.
I have to admit, like, for me, the antagonist, I guess maybe I just went along with it. Like, I think your antagonist this season is going to be Evil Corp. Until maybe the very end.
Tyrell himself, the antagonist.
And Tyrell in Blade Runner, he isn't the antagonist, but he's not a good guy. Yeah. And I think that's what they're trying to set up with this is maybe some kind of recognition on the part of a fan of the genre or of science fiction in general that, okay, this person, regardless of what they do at the end, isn't going to be a good person. If they continue with the Blade Runner call-outs, then
we just needed an antagonist who's as good a hacker as Elliot, right? You need Lex Luthor to Superman,
Well, the thing is, like, if you want a hacker that's as good as Elliot, I'm going to assume that Mr. Robot fits that bill.
No,
we
know it's Tyrell. Mr. Robot, maybe he's a hacker, and maybe he'll end up going against Elliot.
Well, so the thing is, like, if it follows the Blade Runner kind of thing, in Blade Runner, yes, the big corporation did not great things by creating the replicants, but the villain was the person going after the corporation, and so it was Roy Batty. And so if you're going to, like, lay one over the other, then right now I would say Mr. Robot is the Roy Batty character, the product of. And so he has his reasons for taking down the corporation, but he's still the antagonistic force. Right. But then again, I'm just kind of...
No, it's interesting what you're saying, because sometimes when you could have multiple antagonists that are actually antagonistic towards each other.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of thing.
Yeah, so Chris, I want to jump forward quick. what were your favorite parts of episode 2? Summarize.
Well, I did like it that it just picked up right where it left off. I mean, not to say that I like that every time something, I see something like that, but I thought it was enjoyable. I actually liked it when I loved the ending when Mr. Robot pushes Elliot off of the railing, and partly because of the whole conversation just reveals like what Mr. Robot expects from people in his group.
Yeah.
But
he's playing Morpheus, right?
Yeah, well,
remember
again,
Morpheus tells Neo to do the jump program, right?
Yeah. I'm not. Well, you see, in this case, it's not like he was saying to Elliot, "Hey, jump, trust me."
Yeah.
It was like, you betrayed somebody. You deserve this.
Yeah.
And so he pushes, and like I said, that to me revealed a lot. The whole episode kind of revealed a future standoff.
Anything else in the episode that really stood out for you in the second episode?
The thing, this may not be a positive thing, but the drug supplier storyline really felt like, I don't want to say that it was badly written or anything like that. It was a very well made or well done segment. But it does felt like that was the expanded portion of the screenplay.
Yeah. We need some more meat to turn a feature film into a TV series.
And I think it's the Shayla character is his dealer.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like
she's hot, by the way. Like she's the hottest chick in the show.
My feeling with her is that they need that entree into the drug culture, and that's the only reason she's. I mean, that's not like a bad thing. He's the main character, and every character exists to push that story forward. But I guess my greater point with that is that his drug situation didn't feel entirely true to me.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily. I bought that he would go for pharmaceuticals. I didn't buy that he would go for what it amounts to a downer. So
his manipulation of his body's chemicals is all over the place. He's an addict, so he's doing a lot of different things. He's like, I'm not going to do too much amphetamines without my coming down medication. Then he does it. So I think it adds a dimension to the character. Jordan, you said that the second episode improved your feel on the series as a whole. What about episode 2 did that for you?
Yeah, so there were a few little things dispersed. It's funny, unlike Chris, I thought that the drug dealer was that's something where I felt that it added another antagonist other than white guys in suits and potentially Mr. Robot, and it was something where it put Elliot in a position when he's in that room with the drug dealer with a gun.
Yeah.
He's pretty vulnerable. Yet he doesn't come off that way, but no amount of hacking could save him from a bullet to his head. And
not with that attitude.
I liked that tension there because it felt real. It felt like, okay, this guy could actually fucking kill him right now, as opposed to a corporation is going to find out that I'm doing some hacking stuff to their back end and they're going to fire me or
send some guys in black suits to eventually kill me, even though I will probably be able to get away from them relatively easily.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Like that to me was a moment.
Are you looking forward to more action in the show?
I'm looking for more tension, something where I don't care about action, explosions, chases. That stuff's not interesting. Is not necessarily interesting to me. To me, what makes those interesting is the tension. So when you have a guy just sitting there with a gun who looks unstable next to a guy like Elliot who clearly can't physically defend himself, he's very smart. And then we have someone in a bathtub in a room that's locked that we don't know if she's drowning or dead.
Yeah.
To me, that scene really worked.
Yeah.
That was a scene where I was like, "Holy shit! Like this might actually turn for me."
Yeah. I mean, I agree that it was a great scene. And one thing I noticed is the more clothes the drug dealer put on, the less threatening he seemed, which I thought was weird. But that said, no, I agree with Jordan. I mean, it's probably the most tension in a scene, in the entire show so far. I was going to say series, but. Yeah. 2 episodes.
Where do you? We're gonna air this right before the 3rd episode. Where do you guys want to see this show go?
If they continue with the picking up right where they left off, I definitely want to see Elliot with a broken arm again because he's been pushed over the railing.
Mm-hmm.
I'd want to see I'd want to see the continuation of like Mr. Robot becoming more of a zealot and more of like a not literal religious figure, but like he's on a crusade against Evil Corp, and maybe because I think we all would all expect Evil Corp to be evil, maybe something a little more nuanced in what they're trying to do. Maybe the overall system is corrupted, it's evil, but the people within it are trying to do good things. In the pilot episode, we see that they're in agriculture and healthcare and things like that. Maybe those divisions are trying to do good things. They just happen to be attached to something that's distilled pure evil.
Awesome. Jordan, what do you want to see in the next episode?
So I would actually love to see Mr. Robot appearing to be more of a protagonist, to being a little bit more motivated by his anarchistic agenda, and where, you know, someone like Elliot, who definitely has his ideology, he has his worldview. I don't think he's as so far as it's been established, I don't think he's as crazy or anarchistic as Mr. Robot. So it'd be interesting if Elliot gets a little bit, if Elliot feels that he's a little bit too unstable, and that we also feel that maybe, like, it would be interesting, I thought, if that Evil Corp might have like a soul somewhere. You know, like there's somebody there that represents the soul of Evil Corp.
And their goal, it's not just money and world domination. Right. It's something more personal.
Absolutely. If you, I know you didn't like the show, or maybe you came around to, but Daredevil, you have Wilson Fisk, right? And there was 1,000 ways you could have written that character, and it's been written in comics 1,000 ways. But what do? They start off introducing Wilson Fisk next to a woman, having a conversation, going on a date. You learn more about him. He's a human being. He's fucked up, but he's, you know. So there was a little bit of, there was a little bit. What's the word I'm looking for? There was a soul to this monster that, you know, is clearly the antagonist, but you're able to believe that, okay, there is a human side. There's a reason why this is happening. It's not just black and white. I would love to see more of that.
Yeah,
I mean, definitely.
When you have a high concept show, you've got plenty of plot, you've got plenty of obstacles for you, but is there enough character that we give a shit about what's going on? That's always trouble. Yeah. And one of the things I would like to see that would allow more of this, more of us to care more about the machinations of both F Society and Evil Corp, is if we got to know these characters more. I was reminded a lot of The Matrix and Hackers, if you will. And even the new Netflix series Sense8, which we did a podcast on that we're going to release after this one. But The Matrix, Sense8 was actually done by the Wachowskis. Also, at a certain point, the protagonist gets a team. He joins the team. Okay, where's the F Society team? We got to meet a couple of those hackers. I want them teamed up. I want a posse, okay? You know, the evil corporation's got 1 million guys. So give us a couple more hackers. Let's do some teamwork stuff. One of the best parts of Sense8 is, as the series progresses, they find out, I'm not going to spoil for you guys, but they find out that their powers work better the more they work together, and then all of a sudden they compound, and then the show gets so interesting. So I want more of a team up. You know, I don't want Elliot to be so much of a loner for so long.
Should they have introduced those characters already? At least, like, give them... Because right now I don't think they've been even given names.
One of the things we don't know them that well at all.
It's like you have a bearded guy, a girl in a hijab, Mr. Robot, I think. Oh, and the woman that shows up at his house, Darlene, I think it is.
Yeah.
And that's so, it's like there's no names.
I actually prefer the way it's been done. See, what happened in Sense8 is it was a Netflix show, and it's 1 hour, and they know that you're going to binge it. They introduce all 8 characters up front, and it diluted the our excitement for jumping into the show. The pilot's really slow. It gets really good along the way. This pilot for Mr. Robot is tight because we're focused on just like maybe 4 or 5 characters. So they did plant the seeds of some of the other F Society people, but I'm happy that they didn't go too far into it. But by episode 2 or 3 out of 10, I want to start seeing the team up, because by episode 6, a midpoint in the season, that's when the bad guys close in. That's when the team gets dispersed. Their turns on each other already. So we better get the team up going. And I have a feeling that's what we're going to see in episode 3.
Yeah, I mean that would be really cool, especially if they do. If Elliot gets pushed down, his arms are broken, and he needs to rely on this team of diverse, Oh,
you make a good point. I forgot. If he breaks his arm, he can't type. He can't be a hacker. His superpower.
Right. Well, then he has to work with these people.
Gone. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of like if you saw Imitation Game, where you had
Alan Turing. I studied him in my undergraduate computer science. Yeah.
I hope so. Yeah. Alan Turing. He has to work with this team, even though he thinks he could do it himself. Like, that'd be an interesting thing to add to this. So I agree.
Let's just do last thoughts on Mr. Robot as a pilot, as a series. What did you like? What didn't you like? And what are your hopes? Can I start with you, Chris?
So this is something that I think I'd make space for in my queue to watch. I think it's a big issue for a lot of people. Is there's just so much content out there. It's where is there space for it in your queue? And I think that there is for this. Despite any shortcomings the main character has, I do like, in terms of him not being, funny or anything like that. I actually really do like him, and I'm definitely willing to follow him because I think he has an interesting perspective, and I'm betting it's pretty skewed, and we're going to see how unreliable he is as a narrator, which I can't wait to see. I actually am starting to warm to the world that they're in. I think that there are a lot of references. Everything from the shout-outs to other movies like Blade Runner and The Matrix to even something like... I personally thought it was interesting that they went to Dulles to a server farm, because I think it's a shout-out to... There's an area of Northern Virginia where it's just a tech kind of corridor, but also Dulles was like one of the first directors of the CIA, so it speaks to like the espionage elements of it to me anyway. And so... Yeah, so I think it's an interesting world because it feels like it's 30 seconds in the future, and I think that the cast of characters are worth following. I can't wait to see what they do next.
So, as you guys already know, I did not like this pilot, and don't really like where the show and where it's going. But I will say this: I will say my hope is that if they can somehow go more against the convention, which I think that they haven't been doing, which is, you have this corporation, it's evil, it's white people, at least, they're horrible, and this hipster kind of guy who, talks technobabble
he's gonna erase his girlfriend's student loan debt.
Yeah, exactly. It's, that whole thing to me was a little schlocky and felt familiar and just boring. If they can do something interesting, which I think they might be able to, because the cliffhanger they end on, and they can take this old concept and give it a new spin and make the villain, who we don't think it's going to be, make the antagonist somebody else. I might be on board, because honestly, the second episode started to turn me a little bit. I think that interesting scene with him and the drug dealer was an example of that. So if they're able to kind of go more in that direction, they might completely turn me.
I like this show a lot. I'm going to continue to watch it. I think it has great dialogue. It has great screenwriting all around. It's a New York-based show. Of course, I'm going to watch NYC in the house. It's a cyberpunk show. All the homages to cyberpunk, I'm going to keep watching it. I think we did talk about some of its flaws, but I think it's extremely well written. It's only going to get better. For a USA show, this is fantastic. I mean, but I think also what's most important for me is that it continued to escalate. Like I said, that you take it past those first 2 episodes that I think the creator had as a feature and are able to expand the world and keep it interesting. But I don't know. I'll watch any hacker drama. I think this is far better than Scorpion, because this is this show is dark. There's a dark side to it. There's dark characters to it, real flaws. So this is definitely on my agenda. All right, that's it, guys. That's all the time we have. Thank you, guys. This is The Script, produced by Jordan Rosengarten and David Negrin. You can email us, fan mail us, hate mail us, comments, questions, or hack us at scriptfeed@gmail.com. Please join our Facebook page or our Google Plus page by searching for NYC Screenwriters Collective. You can also follow us on Twitter at ScriptFeed. If you live in New York City, please sign up for our workshops at meetup.com under NYC Screenwriters Collective. If you like the script, please give us a star review or a rating on iTunes. See you next time.